Well, hello, everybody. It is 7:30 where I am on the West Coast, and it is 10:30 where Adam is on the right coast. And
That's
for
right.
those of you somewhere in between in the flyover states and all the beautiful places in between, it might be just a little bit different. But what I know is
Mhm.
this is a wonderful time to talk about recruiting because we got Adam Roach. Adam,
I'm
how are you,
here.
brother?
Yes, Bill, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm super excited to share tons of information about recruiting, at least from my experiences.
Yeah, well, that's why we're talking, man. Can you back up just a little bit so people can see that entire T-shirt? Come on,
There
come
it
on,
is. Yeah, so we've
right?
got the I love coaching and I love recruiting. We got the t-shirts, we got the swag. Bill, I can't wait to give them to some of your listeners.
I love it, man. I love a guy that sticks a flag in the sand, and it's the equivalent of saying I love pull-ups, right? So somebody will come up next to you and go, seriously, dude? Like, well, jump up on that bar and show me how much you love push-ups or pull-ups, right? So that's kind of how this feels to
Sure.
me because, brother, I've been in this business for 30 years. I've been a coach for 20.
Hmm.
And what I know is
Hmm.
for people whose responsibility is recruiting, I'm
Hmm.
just going to generalize, but this is my general experience. I would love for you to react to it. They are generally ill equipped, ill prepared, insecure, not
Hmm.
very effective. How am I doing?
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say you're pretty spot on. Yes.
I mean, generally, right? Generally speaking. But now, if we go back to your background, which is fascinating, like you
Hmm.
started a tennis club, you started
Hmm.
flipping real estate, and every step of the way, you're recruiting either members or contractors
Right.
and subs, and then you get into real estate and you buy
Hmm.
several Keller Williams franchises and recruit like crazy and build those and
Hmm.
then sell those ultimately, and that created a trajectory for you where now you have created a variety of different things. You've got a coaching
Hmm.
company, a recruiting company, you've got
Hmm.
software, a variety of different softwares. Am I viewing it correctly that there are some that are specifically like for real estate and mortgage, but another for like chambers of commerce? Am I getting that
That's
correctly?
correct. Yep, that's correct. Yep, and we're
Who knew?
entering
I
many
did.
different verticals, right? Hmm.
I love the way that you view niches though, because for you to be able to identify niches that nobody else is in, it reminds me so much of that Blue Ocean Strategy book. Are you familiar with that?
Hmm. I am, yes.
For those that are not familiar with that, the basic concept was, and feel free to Google it, it's just such a brilliant concept. It's one of those things like the book is fantastic, but you don't even
Hmm.
need the book to benefit from the title, right? The title is
Right.
in a blue ocean strategy, you have no competition. In a red ocean filled with the blood of your competition, it's busy, it's
Hmm.
noisy, everybody's in it. You have in essence just jumped into multiple blue oceans where it's like, I got this, I got this. Nobody else is in this space, right?
Yeah, it's true. We like to consider ourselves category kings, if
I
that's
love
a
that.
good parallel there to blue oceans.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I love
So
that.
so
So,
we're having
yeah,
fun
let's
doing it.
jump
Yeah.
in. Well,
Yeah.
here's what
So
I would
we're
love for you to do.
go ahead.
Here's my simple thought, and then I'm just going to shut up and let you roll. I think we've got people right now that it is their responsibility to recruit. I think they often
Hmm.
get pressure to do so, and so here's what most people do: they call everybody they know, they hit everybody up they know on social. People are statistically not ready to make a move right now because you reached out to them, and then they sort of get
Hmm.
frustrated and don't know what to do. So again, I know I'm overgeneralizing, but if there's any truth in that, speak to that group. Like what's the philosophy, what's the mindset, Adam, that how do we approach
Right.
recruiting differently?
Right. Well, Bill, in our experience, so right now, the I Love Coaching and the I Love Recruiting companies, we have countless coaches, countless clients, literally all over the globe when it comes to recruiting from New Zealand, Canada, North America, not many in Europe just yet, but it's on the way. And the neat part about this is it transcends any industry you're in my opinion. We have what's called the real model, and that's relevant, experiential, authentic learning. And the neat part about our model, Bill, is that it's duplicatable, right? So it doesn't have to stay just in real estate. It doesn't have to just stay in mortgages. It doesn't have to just stay in and it can transcend any industry. So here's what we find, and this is the very first place we go to. So, Bill, if you and I were in a coaching space and you were in the recruiting space, the very first question I would ask you is, hey, tell me about your vision statement, right?
Yep.
Tell me about your actual, tangible, articulatable vision statement, because here's what we have found. When people think they're recruiting, by the way, no one's good enough to recruit. No one is good enough to recruit you, Bill. No one's good enough to recruit me. No one's good enough to recruit anybody, because here's what recruiting is. Recruiting is relationship building, right? I had a mentor of mine. Her name was Linda McKissick, and she gave me this equation.
Dude,
And she
I
said,
know Linda and Jimmy. I interviewed them years ago.
mhm,
Great
yep,
people.
yep,
Sorry,
good
go ahead.
friends, great
Yeah.
people. That's okay. And the recruiting equation, everybody, looks like this. You do want to write this down. Relationships plus value and validity. Now draw a line because we're dividing. Over time equals self-discovery. So
Mm,
relationships plus value and validity
yep.
over time equals self-discovery. That is recruiting right there,
Yep.
101. So when we go back to the vision statement, Bill, with any of our clients, we ask them, what is your vision statement? And you know what's fascinating? It's not fascinating now, but in the beginning it was. I'd probably say 95% of them do not have an articulatable vision statement. They don't know where they're actually going. They don't have a beacon of light that is like, holy cow, this is where I want to go. So now when I'm sitting down with you, Bill, and I'm looking to build a relationship, I can see if there's alignment with you and I and you with that vision statement. So
Yep.
therefore, I'm not going to get attached to the outcome of you joining my company or not. I'm getting attached to the outcome of that vision statement and aligning the right people with it. In my opinion,
So
that
good.
is the single most important thing you can do right now as a recruiter, is either look at your company's vision statement or look at your personal or your business vision statement. And if it speaks to you, if it pulls you, if it's something that is like, holy cow, 3 a.m., I'm ready to go because I want to bring that vision statement to life, you're good. Now you just sit down and build
Yeah.
relationships with people and see if there's alignment. There you go. It's that
That's
simple.
so good. That's so good. So if I can put you on the spot, whether it's yours or a client's or even just a, you know, a company that you admire, help people who are hearing you say this and nodding their heads, but like, well, give me an example. Like, help me see a vision that somebody could be drawn towards.
Sure. Great. So I'll give an example from my Keller Williams days.
Yep.
So I was my background. I was a tennis player, right? That's just what I grew up doing. I was a collegiate tennis player, and then went out to Southern California, and we ran a tennis club. Myself and two other guys, we owned what was called the concession rights from the city of Beverly Hills to all their public tennis courts. And that's when I started my recruiting career and didn't know it because I was recruiting tennis pros to come to our
Yeah.
club. Fast forward now to a Keller Williams franchise that I was involved with here in Charleston, South Carolina. And I walked into this office and it was fine. It was your typical boring, drab, not, I mean, there was no emotion. It was just, yeah, exactly. And we had 120 agents. And I said, listen, my vision is to be the first single $1 billion office in this little city called Charleston, South Carolina.
Nice.
No office had ever done that. And so I said, we've got to start with a vision statement. So here it was, Bill. It was to become, right? Because a vision statement is where you're always going to. A mission statement is right now to become the most attractive and vibrant real estate office in all of Charleston, committed to a model of excellence, right? So for
Yeah.
those of you listening, here's what I would challenge you with. Start writing down a bunch of words that mean something to you. Start your vision statement with to become, fill in the blank, and then put the word by of how you're going to do that, right? So ours was to become the most attractive and vibrant real estate office in all of Charleston, committed to a model of excellence. Now, Bill,
Yeah.
I'll go a little bit deeper here. When I shared that for the first time, people were like, "Okay, good job, Adam. That's a great amount of words." I said, "No, it's
Mm.
fine. We're gonna live by this, right?" So I took my staff and I renamed them, Bill, the Vision Team, because that was the people that were going to help me bring this
Love
vision
that.
to life.
Yeah.
Every Friday at our Vision Team meeting, one person on the team, so one person per week, had to read the vision statement out loud and answer this question. What specifically did you do this week to move the needle forward faster to bring that vision to
Wow.
reality? Okay.
It gets right down to
So
it.
now so everyone had to answer that once a week. And now let's fast forward. So that was 2013. By 2017, we had almost 400 agents, and we were doing nearly $1 million in profit from $300,000 in profit.
Dude,
And the beauty of it was, I can literally, from the attraction space of recruiting, tie it all back to the alignment of the vision statement.
that is so
Yep.
good. That is so good, man. I'm reminded of a couple of things. So because I've earned all of this gray hair, there's a trainer you may or may not remember, real estate trainer Floyd Wickman out of
Mm-hmm.
Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Floyd, old school, right? I mean, like
Sure.
old school humor,
Mm-hmm.
old school training. But I loved Floyd because one of the things that he would talk about is he would pull out a whiteboard in front of an audience and he would draw a picture of a rocket ship. I don't know if you've ever seen him do this.
Mm-hmm.
And what
Mm-hmm.
he would explain to his these are realtors that he's talking to, right? He would say, so if you're a broker, if you're a manager, if it's your responsibility to fill that office, you've got to help them to see that this rocket is going to the moon and there's a limited number of seats on it, right? It
Right.
was very basic compared to what you just described, but the same principle is
Mm-hmm.
true. There's another example that you're probably too young to have heard, but it'll make immediate sense to you. You'll remember some of this from history. The two examples of vision casting that are extreme are John F. Kennedy and Gerald Ford. I don't know if you remember hearing this.
Okay.
Kennedy said, "We will have a man on the moon by the end of the decade." Ford
Mm-hmm.
said, "Whip inflation now." The problem with
Mm-hmm.
whip inflation now, and they had buttons that said win, W-I-N. How do you know when inflation is
Mm-hmm.
whipped? What does that mean? And when is now? Like
Right.
now or
Right.
next week, next year,
Mm-hmm.
next with Kennedy, it was very specific. We will have a man on the moon by the end of the decade, or as he said it,
Mm.
decade. But regardless, that's the kind of specificity that makes a difference. You know, I think about companies like I just pulled this out. This you've probably seen these Credo cards that the Ritz Carlton has.
Yep.
You know, they
Mm-hmm.
train to that, man. They recruit and they train to that. And much like Gary Keller used to tell us, they recruit talent. They don't recruit
Mm-hmm.
experience, right? They recruit talent and then
Mm-hmm.
they train them to be ladies and gentlemen
Yep.
that serve ladies and gentlemen. They become their
Mm-hmm.
vision team. So
Right.
what would you recommend to so let's say somebody's listening to you now, they're getting fired up about, okay, this makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I should do. Now we're gonna have all of your resources in the show notes and everybody's gonna be able
Cool.
to find Adam Roach, which is not difficult, by the way. If you just Google Adam Roach, you're gonna get a whole page full of opportunities to connect. But like, what's the
Mm-hmm.
next step, man? Where would you have somebody if you were coaching them and their
Mm-hmm.
responsibility was recruiting? Like, what's
Yep.
step one? Well, step two. Step one is their vision. They have to have a clear
Correct.
vision that they can articulate, that now they can
Mm-hmm.
decide whether or not this person is in alignment with where we're going, right?
Right. Yep. So
What's
the
the
next
next
step
step?
is it's super simple, Bill. It is, and I'm gonna you're gonna hear me say the word grow. It's where are you intending to grow to? Not go
Nice.
to, but grow to. And
Nice.
in our I Love Recruiting company, that is a language. The grow word is used everywhere. So
Yep.
now I'm sitting down with a client and I'm asking them, where are you intending to grow to? They'll tell me. We've got clients that literally every single day are growing, and it's fascinating to watch. Um, and we'll look at their pond size. So hypothetically, let's say, Bill, you're running a company and you want the company to go from 1,000 to 5,000, right? Well, you
Yep.
have to look at your pond. You have to look at the size of your pond to even see if that's a possible outcome that you can actually
Hmm.
have based on the size of your pond.
Yep.
Then we go into what specifically are you looking for in the avatar that you're looking to recruit, right? So
Love
let me
that.
go back to our vision, right? The vision is to be the most attractive and vibrant. So if I'm sitting down with you in my head, by the way, that vision statement is behind me. So as
Nice.
you are sitting here talking to me, you're seeing the vision statement and you're thinking this is what I intend to do with my conversation. By the end of it, I want you to be able to look at that vision statement and say, "Holy cow, I can see myself fitting inside of that." Right? So now you're sitting down with someone and you're getting into the first part of the equation, which is relationship building. So you defined your pond, you know your avatar based on your vision, and now you call someone up and you start to build rapport.
Yep.
Whether it's a cold call or not, we have plenty of scripts for anyone listening to get into a relationship with someone and set an appointment. That to me is the fun part of this in the recruiting space, right? Is building that relationship and setting the appointments. It was always
You bet.
I have a tracking book down here that I use with all of our clients, and I even have it from back in my days where I literally track every single conversation, every single dial, right? So, Bill, we'll keep going here real quick. So
Yep.
now you're in the appointment. You can see the vision statement behind me. And I will challenge all of your listeners. when you're next time you're sitting down with someone, whether that's a recruit, whether that's a coworker, whether that's a significant other, whether it's a child, see if you can think in terms of questions,
Mm,
not solutions. See if you
mm,
can think in terms of questions, not solutions. We as humans have a tendency to answer in solutions. Get out of solution mode. If you're in the recruiting space, get out of solution mode. Get into curiosity mode. Bill, what do people like talking about the most?
themselves,
Themselves, right? There's two
right?
things that people like. They want to look good and they want to be right, right? So the more questions you can ask them, the more they're going to feel comfortable. Now, I'm not talking about questions that are, bless you, I'm not talking about questions that are making you guys friends. I'm talking about questions that are going to move the needle forward
You bet.
faster, right? So we have what's called the four corners of a conversation, where we take someone through a positive present into a negative present, into a negative future, and leave them at a positive future. And all of that
Mm,
is question oriented, right? That, and then again, I didn't come up with that. And I don't even remember where that came from, but that's something that I used in my space when I was recruiting. I'm sure it came from when I was in the KW World Maps coaching.
you bet.
But we use that every single day when we're coaching to teach them the language and the curiosity based questions with a recruit to walk them through the four corners of that conversation. And by the time they finish, Bill, here's what we want. I want you to leave our conversation with, holy cow, that was an incredible meeting, but I don't know anything about Adam.
Yeah. Wow.
That's it. Mm-hmm.
I love that, man. So I've watched you do this,
Mm-hmm.
right? We've gone through this
Yeah.
process
Yeah.
before. And I've always envied the ability. It's much like Jim Rohn. I saw Jim Rohn live years ago in Orange County, and he would sit on a stool. He broke every speaker's basic rule. He would
Mm-hmm.
sit on a stool and he'd have a whiteboard and he would just start like writing and drawing, and there'd be arrows and it was all messy. And you sort of did the same thing in a much neater fashion where you have a flip chart and you've already laid out like the format of where you want the conversation to go. But rather than like throwing a PowerPoint or something up on screen, it's much more organic. It's much more
Mm-hmm.
customizable. And so I can tell you, having watched it and experienced it, it's like, cool. He's done his homework. He gets who I am. He understands what it is that we're after, and he's asking questions. So I've watched you
Yeah.
do this, and you're
Mm-hmm.
masterful. And I'm telling you, if you guys are hearing Adam
Thank you.
describe this right now, this is something you're going to want to go deeper on. So wherever you find him, and again, at the end of our time together here, we'll have a call to action. So you tell them where to go,
Cool.
whether it's a
Okay.
video or something that's a tool that they can download or an engagement with one of your team members. But yeah, man,
Sure.
that process makes a ton of sense to me. A ton of
Mm-hmm.
sense. So well done, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, the fun part is I'm going to challenge all of your listeners. So I had a coach challenge me on this one time. And I said, if I'm going to sit down and ask a bunch of questions, when do I get to talk about myself? And he said, never. He said, because your job is to ask enough questions that you create what's called a gap, right? There's a value gap in everybody. Everybody's at a point A and they want to get to a point B. Well, the only way for you to understand how or what is specifically missing, keyword there, right? Use that in your language too, specifically
Yeah.
with your questions. The key there is understanding specifically what either is stopping them or what their gap is. Let's go back to the equation: relationship plus value and validity. You get to then understand what needs to be put in that gap to help them close it faster. There's the key
Yeah.
word there is faster, because where they are, they're going to ultimately get from A to B. But the question is, how fast can they get there? And if you
Nice.
can help them self discover, big word, self discover. I'm not cramming this down your throat. If you can help them self discover that where they are, negative future, is going to get them from A to B slower, and where you are, positive future, can get them there A to B faster. Now they'll self discover. They say, holy cow, I need Bill in my life.
That's so good. That's so good, man. I mean, this is just gold. So here's what I'm going to do. Full disclosure. For anybody who's
Okay.
watching or listening right now, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
go back through this. I'm going to make notes because it's how I assimilate data. It's like live, real time. I'm reacting. Neurons are firing. My heart rate's going up. It's like I
Mm-hmm.
get excited. But what I know is
Mm-hmm.
if I want to learn this and I want to be able to coach this and implement
Mm-hmm.
it, That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to encourage you right now. If this is something that is resonating with you and you know that it will help your world and your responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
or someone possibly that is responsible and you want to have them go through it, I would do the same thing. Like, watch it again,
Mm-hmm.
listen
Mm-hmm.
to it,
Mm-hmm.
pause it. Like, I literally bring up two screens, like a Word doc and then the YouTube
Mm-hmm.
channel or the podcast, and I'll just stop, type, stop, type, stop, type, so I can chunk this down at them. This is
Cool.
pure gold. There have been longer interviews in the world, but none that have been full of more nuggets, right? So I want to
Sure.
ask you a question. Did I see correctly on
Mhm.
Facebook that you were recently at least engaged?
Correct. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was that was there any formula in play there? I'm just curious,
That's a fun question, Bill. Yes, absolutely. If so, I have a
right?
group on Facebook called The Art of Recruiting, and
Mm,
inside there's thousands of recruiters from all over the globe that are in there, and we talk, we practice, we ask questions, we engage, and when Dana said yes to me, of course, we took a selfie and all that fun stuff. And I
right.
posted in the group, this was my greatest recruiting effort ever. And yeah. So there was maybe a little bit of my training going on in that process.
It's
However,
gotta
yeah,
be in your head,
it
right?
was definitely
So
it's
here's my
always in
story,
my head. Yes.
right? Well, how could it not be? 30 years ago, Tony and I were
Hmm.
married, almost 31, but 32 years ago, I was trying to win her heart. There's
Hmm.
there's a lesson here, you guys. Follow me on this. Or as Floyd Wickman used to say, "Stick with me. I'm going somewhere here." So
Hmm.
I would leave handwritten notes on the back of a business card under her windshield wiper on the car in the parking lot. I
Hmm.
had flowers sent to the beauty salon where she was getting her hair done, because there's nothing better than to have a bunch of other women watching you receive flowers, right? Like, this
Right.
was
Sure.
logarithmic 10x benefit. Yeah,
Hmm.
take this and run with it, man. Um,
Hmm.
and I would have notes for her everywhere and cards for no reason, Hallmark cards for no reason. Like, I worked hard to win the girl's heart. About a year
Hmm.
later, she's happy. I'm happy. But she
Hmm.
says one day, I loved that stuff you did early on when you were
Hmm.
trying to woo me, and it was like,
Right.
dee, 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 DEFCON 5. And today,
Right.
31 years later, my wife gets a handwritten note from me at the coffee pot every morning, because I'm up at
Beautiful.
5, she's up a little bit later. Dude, it has to be done. I date my wife every week, right? And I call her my
Well,
bride because it's endearing. And so I'm just telling you this because you're a few years behind me. All that stuff that you're
mhm.
doing now, keep winning the girl's heart long term. Because isn't that how we
Mm.
we retain our best players anyway on our teams?
Well, it's funny you should say that, Bill, and I'll bring it to the context of this conversation. You're constantly re-recruiting her, right? You're constantly
Absolutely.
re-recruiting her. So yeah, so thank you for that advice. Yeah, no, I'll definitely
Yeah, man.
definitely take that advice and put it to action for sure.
You bet.
Hmm.
All right, buddy. So let's drive people to action. Speaking of that, where do people go? You've got so many different entry points into your ecosystem. Where would you drive
Hmm.
people?
Well, here's what I would say, and I'm happy to give all of that information. We have resources galore because our coaches, when they come into the ecosystem of the I Love Coaching company, bring their resources with them.
Yeah,
And that's a resource library that is completely open to not only our clients but to just about everybody. So if they go
nice.
to iloverecruiting.com, and they at the very top of the page, they can put in their email address and name, and we'll send them what we have is called the 30 questions relationship building needs analysis 30 questions. And the idea here is that when you set an appointment with someone, your goal is not to sit down and vomit all over them whatever your company is about, right? It literally, as we've talked about for the last 25 minutes, is to stay in
You bet.
curiosity. And so these 30
Nice.
questions are purposefully written and will take you through a process of getting someone to self-discover that, because the very last question is, would you agree that if you're looking to get somewhere, right? Little NLP there. Would you agree that
Yeah.
you're
Right.
looking to get somewhere? You're going to have to make some changes in your company, right? tie down.
So good.
And
Yep.
in my world, in our coaches' world that have used this over and over and over, no one has ever said no there. So that's the very last question in there, and then it walks them through how to do that. So if they go to the art of recruiting, I'm sorry, if they go to iloverecruiting.com and put in their
Yep.
information right there, we'll shoot that over to them today. If they
Love
want to
it.
come join the Art of Recruiting group, they can do that. It's on Facebook. So it's just facebook.com/groups/T as in Tom, A as in Apple, O, so TAO, recruiting, and you'll go right to it. Yep,
Nice. Nice. Yeah,
for sure.
I joined that group and benefit from it regularly. So join me
Cool.
in that group. It's a great place to hang
Yeah,
out.
for sure.
Adam,
Hmm.
I love what you've done, bud. I love the fact that you have
Thanks, Bill.
developed, and apparently you've just done this from the beginning of time, whether you had a paper route or wherever this all started with you. You looked for unique niches where there was an opportunity. You know, somebody, it might have been
Hmm.
Earl Nightingale, that said the secret to success in business is to find a need and fill it. You've done it.
Hmm.
I'm proud of
Yeah.
you. I'm
Thank
excited
you.
to know you.
Thank you, Bill.
Excited to be
Likewise.
able to share you with so many other people today. So yeah, man, continued success in all that you do. Congratulations on the engagement. Keep winning the girl's heart by re-recruiting Dana. And yeah, man, just thank you for this time today. I know it's going to help a lot of people.
My pleasure, Bill. And if there's anything that anybody ever needs from the from our company, from me, you can find me on Instagram as well, Adam R. Roach, and slide into the DM, and we'll definitely have a conversation. We do the same thing in the art of recruiting. I jump on there and I get live, and we share value. We talk. We engage. Recruiting is fun if you make it fun. If you take recruiting
Love that.
as a negative, get out of the game now because it's not a negative. Your
Oh
job is
yeah.
to build relationships. Yep, your job is to connect. John Maxwell wrote a book that said everyone communicates if you connect, and as a recruiter, it's your job to learn to connect.
Yeah, man. And I'm going to leave a visual. Somebody that we all saw in the news recently is Richard Branson, right? And love him or hate him, it's
Hmm.
hard to
Hmm.
argue with the fact that that guy has created an enormous vision, incredible likability, and he spends
Right.
his time cutting ribbons, standing in front of businesses, toasting champagne, and apparently going into space because he builds an
Hmm.
amazing vision that people want to be around. Be
Sure.
Richard Branson. Figure out a way to create
Yeah.
something exciting that people want to be a part of. Adam has now shown us a way to cross the bridge, right? To create that connection
Mm.
point. But start with your vision, get fired up, create something that's worthy of people to be excited for. And yeah, man,
Hmm.
follow this path that Adam has laid out. I appreciate your time today, bud.
Likewise, Bill. Thank you for having me. And yeah, now it's time for you to get on the I Love Recruiting podcast. So watch for your invite.
Absolutely. Go do it. See you guys.
Okay. Thanks, guys.